6th of June 2014, live from ITV Studios in London. This is Good Morning Britain.
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. Welcome to the programme. I'm Charlotte Hawkins, and this morning everyone is talking about the parents from Norfolk who were arrested after their 11-year-old son became hugely overweight. A lot of you getting in touch about that this morning. Paula says it's absolute madness. What are they going to do? Lock everyone up or move in with you to see what you eat? Lindsay, though, disagrees, and she says arresting parents for allowing children to be obese is a good move. There has been a lot of help and education on the matter for a long time, and some parents are simply choosing to ignore it, she says. And it's certainly a subject which has divided opinion this morning. Dr. Hilary is here to share his thoughts in just a moment.
I'm John Stapleton. Considerate, generous and tolerant. These are the three words I hope my son would use to describe me, although I somehow doubt it. How would you describe your dad? We're launching an exciting campaign today and we want you to get involved.
Talking of three words, how does sunshine, rain and thunderstorms sound? Well, I'm Sean Fletcher, and if recent weather forecasts are to be believed, that's what's in store for us this weekend. Laura, will we be getting the barbecue out or grabbing our wellies?
I think a little bit of both. I'm hedging an inside day on Saturday and a barbecue on Sunday. I think everybody else should follow suit as well, because it really is a mixed bag, but there is something for everybody this weekend. We've got gorgeous sunshine for many today. It will warm up nicely, but as the humidity builds, you will feel that torrential thunderstorms in the forecast for tomorrow. But it does improve by the end of the weekend. More with all of that with me in 15 minutes.
Our top story, the parents of an 11-year-old boy have been arrested for alleged neglect and cruelty after their son's weight reached 15 stone.
A spokesman for Norfolk Police told us a 49-year-old man and a 44-year-old woman were arrested in March on suspicion of child neglect and cruelty and have been released on police bail pending further inquiries.
Our health editor, Dr. Hilary Jones, is here. And Hilary, many people will think that this is an extreme measure. I mean, we've had a lot of people getting in touch this morning saying education is the way forward. It is drastic, isn't it, to arrest the parents over this?
Very drastic, and this is certainly polarised opinion on both sides of the argument. If you have a child of 11 who weighs 15 stone, has a body mass index of over 41, weighs 4 stone more than John Stapleton here, and 3 times that a child of that age and height should weigh, then they're morbidly obese. And that is a term used because it is a morbid situation in terms of increasing significantly the risk of diabetes, heart disease and premature death. So if parents are warned about the consequences in their child of being that much overweight and they take no action, it could be considered a type of emotional neglect or emotional abuse, and that is what the police have allegedly been looking into. I think some people will be amazed that it's gone that far, but when a child is subject to all of the psychological and physical issues that being that overweight creates, then I think it's reasonable for the authorities to become involved.
And obviously we don't know the exact circumstances, but reports in the paper today that the mother was saying, well, it's in his genes, that's how he was born to be.
Well, that's not the case. I mean, if she thinks that, she needs to be re-educated on that point. Nobody, even with a genetic predisposition, which is controversial anyway, is going to put on that much weight. It's just far too significant. That can only come about through overeating when medical conditions are excluded. And I believe GPs have been involved. They do have the child welfare at heart, and that's why social services, perhaps in cases like this, do sometimes get involved.
OK, Dr. Hilary, thank you.
Hundreds of Second World War veterans will be joined by world leaders in Normandy today for the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings. The Queen, David Cameron and President Obama will be amongst them. Richard Gaisford is there too for us this morning. An historic day, Richard. How's it going to be commemorated?
Well, Prince William and Kate are going to be here in Arromanches a little later, John, hosting a tea party for British veterans. 70 years ago today, this beach was full. 26,000 Brits landed here on this stretch of coast alone, which was known as Gold Beach. These military vehicles here giving us some idea of what it might have looked like 7 decades ago. We have a section of Mulberry Harbour there on the waterline. Those, of course, the giant pontoons that were brought across to form a massive harbour so they could supply this invasion force. And the Royal Marine Commandos are there this morning. The commandos bringing their landing craft here to show us a bit about how those troops were brought to shore. It is all about commemorating this military operation and, of course, those that didn't make it home. Prince Charles starting that process today. In the next few minutes in Bayeux at the Cathedral, there's a Royal British Legion remembrance service there. He joins the Queen a little later at the cemetery in Bayeux to think about those who did pay the ultimate price. The Queen then moves on to Sword Beach, to the east of where we are near Caen, to join this international service. President Obama there with David Cameron and all the other world leaders. It is a massive enterprise, this commemoration today. It is also a very big security operation too, John.
Richard, thank you very much.
The Conservatives have won the Newark by-election, seeing off the challenge from UKIP, who came second, but their majority was significantly down on the general election. Our political editor, Sue Jameson, is in Newark. And Sue, David Cameron's been talking about the results in the last few minutes. What's he said?
Yeah, well, he said actually the results are very good for the Conservatives, but not wanting to appear too pleased with it. He says there's still a lot of work to be done between now and the election to bring back some of those voters from UKIP to the Conservatives. He feels probably personally involved. He was up here 4 times during the campaign. It used to be said Prime Ministers don't do by-elections. That ship has certainly sailed, and watch out in some much more marginal seats than Newark. After such success in the European and local elections, UKIP were hoping to upset the political apple cart again in Newark. But though they made serious inroads on the Conservative 16,000 majority, they did not come close to winning the seat.
The people of Newark have voted to back this government.
They haven't turned to Ed Miliband. Yes, there's been a vote to UKIP, but Conservatives with the long-term plan for this country. We've held this by-election.
However, UKIP leader Nigel Farage, who contemplated running for the election himself, was not downhearted, and UKIP said it was delighted by the surge in support.
We've increased our share of the vote 6-fold since the general election. That's enormous progress, and we're very satisfied with it.
It was another disastrous night for the Lib Dems, who finished 6th, polling fewer votes than the Green Party and an independent candidate. This was a comfortable victory for the Conservatives, but UKIP's ability to take thousands of votes away from them remains a real concern a year from the general election. Sue Jameson, Good Morning Britain, Newark.
A man suspected of killing 3 police officers and wounding 2 others in Canada has been arrested. Justin Bourque was caught in Moncton, New Brunswick, after a huge manhunt involving hundreds of police. Local residents have been told it's now safe to leave their homes. Meanwhile, a man has died and 3 others have been injured after a gunman opened fire at a university campus in Seattle. He was pepper sprayed and disarmed by a student security guard as he was reloading his weapon. Several other students helped to pin him down until the police arrived.
If you're about to head to Bristol Airport, they're warning of significant disruptions and delays after a serious power failure. At one stage, hundreds of people were left waiting outside the building, queuing in the dark. Engineers have now partially restored the power.
Andy Murray takes on Rafa Nadal this afternoon as he attempts to reach the French Open final for the first time. In their 19 previous meetings, Murray has won just 5 times and has never beaten Nadal on clay. The Spaniard has won the French Open 8 times.
Now, is this the way to beat the rush hour when you're commuting? Look at this. It's a daredevil spotted in Colorado, jumping from the roof of a 45-floor hotel. He did have a jetpack on, though. Flew around for about 30 seconds and then landed safely back down. It was apparently being filmed for a documentary, but you never know. We could all be doing that in not too long time. I was going to say, one way of avoiding waiting for the lift, which we do for hours and hours in this building every day. Exactly, jetpack up.
The fact that he goes out and then comes back to exactly the same spot. It's a bit like being on the Circle Line, isn't it?
Go on ITV, let's get him in.
Jetpacks around.
All next week on Good Morning Britain, we're counting down to Father's Day by asking you to share with us 3 words that best describe your dad.
This Father's Day, don't just send a card, tell the world how great you think your dad is in just 3 words.
Dependable, thoughtful and brave.
Go-to guy.
Nurturing, honest and loving.
Next week on Good Morning Britain, we're counting down to Father's Day.
And to get involved, visit our website for all the info.
Take a selfie and send it telling us about your dad using hashtag 3 words.
He did it.
She did it.
Go for it.
Love you, Dad.
Happy Father's Day, Dad.
That's a magic number.
Yeah, to get involved and for more information, go to itv.com/Good Morning Britain.
Now then, a question for you. Should the police get involved in the fight against childhood obesity? Well, according to the front page of the Sun newspaper this morning, They already have.
The parents of an 11-year-old boy were taken into custody for suspected cruelty after their son tipped the scales at 15 stone, which is 3 times heavier than the average for a child his age. Is it a step too far?
I think arresting them is quite strong. I think probably it's better to educate people, and it'd be interesting to see how the parents are, whether they're overweight as well, and whether it's sort of something that's been passed down.
I think that people should be guided by the state, but I think that they should also be free to sort of make their own choice about how they sort of parent their children.
Something should have been done a bit earlier. I don't know that arrest is the right course of action.
The health of the child has to come first, but I'm sure there are other means of addressing this issue rather than actually arresting and criminalising someone for it.
Well, we're joined now by body image campaigner Natasha Devon. Good morning to you. What do you make of this then? Is it a dangerous precedent to set that the authorities have stepped in like this?
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt, of course, that this is a very serious case and that intervention did need to happen. But this type of intervention with actually arresting the parents, I think it does set a dangerous precedent. You know, my area of expertise is mental health more than physical health. And somebody on Twitter earlier made a really interesting point about this story. They said, what would our course of action have been if this 11-year-old had had anorexia and was starving himself, which unfortunately in the society that we live in isn't outside the realms of possibility? Would we then look to be arresting the parents, or would we give them lots of emotional and practical support? And the answer is probably the latter, and I think we need to take a similar kind of approach with this.
But if, I stress, if the parents have been encouraged by the authorities in the past to take steps to alleviate the situation and they have failed to do so, doesn't society have a duty to protect this child as well?
The problem is, John, that in my experience, the kinds of interventions that are made in health aren't working. So it's all focused on physical health and nutrition. Parents are being told what to feed their children, but they're not being told what to do if their children are throwing temper tantrums, if they've got behavioural issues, if they've got mental health issues. We have to remember that food is about a lot more than nourishment. You know, people eat for all kinds of reasons, and a lot of them don't have anything to do with physical hunger. Sure. It's so tied up with the way that we think, and that's what parents need to be educated about.
What about the boys? He's 11 years old and he's 15 stone, which is Hillary saying, it's 4 stone heavier than me, and I'm 5 feet 11 inches tall, in old money, as it were. And what about the boy's health? I mean, there's a risk of diabetes, there's a risk of heart attack, not necessarily now, but in later life. Surely we're all duty-bound to try and protect him against himself.
There are things that can be done, like a lot of GPs actually prescribe gym memberships to young people so that they are able to go to the gym for free and work out, because a lot of children don't do enough exercise in school. There are interventions that can be made, but I think we have to consider, when you are taking a child out of their family environment, the long-term impact on their emotional health. You know, aside from the weight thing, to take a child out of a loving family, and we've got no reason to believe that this isn't a loving family. To take the parents away and arrest them and keep them in custody can't be good for the children.
OK, it's a controversial issue. Thank you very much for your views.
Thanks, Natasha. The headlines on Good Morning Britain. The time is 8:14, and as we were just saying, the parents of an 11-year-old boy have been arrested for suspected neglect and child cruelty after their son's weight reached 15 stone. They've been released on police bail. Hundreds of veterans will be joined by world leaders in Normandy today for the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings. The Queen, David Cameron and President Obama will be among them. The Conservatives have won the Newark by-election, seeing off a challenge from UKIP, who came second, but their majority was significantly down on the general election. Now, Laura's here. Laura, weekend weather, because we're wondering here which way it's going to go. It's not sounding good.
She's always got bad news.
I know.
So.
Well, no, there's never bad weather. There's just not favourable weather, because actually thunderstorms tomorrow are the exact weather that I absolutely love, but perhaps not great if you've got some outdoor plans, which many of you have. So, yes, Saturday may be the day to do indoor plans. Sunday, they would improve. Let's take a look.
You can't choose the weather, but you can choose the right trade for you. Good Morning Britain National Weather is sponsored by Checkatrade.com.
Checkatrade, Checkatrade.com.
And actually today's weather doesn't look too bad either. It's been a mixed old week, hasn't it? But today, sunshine for many. It will warm up very nicely. Then the humidity builds, and that is what triggers the thunderstorms tonight into tomorrow. They're already starting to develop out towards the south and west, but elsewhere we can see a dry, clear, bright start to the day. It does mean a bit chilly first thing and still cloudy through the Northern Isles, the northern half of Scotland. The legacy of yesterday's weather front, a little damp and drizzly, but come a little further south, southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales.